I'm going to have a think about what I can do to articulate his arms and where to articulate them. Looking at the Dormammu drawings, his gloves go up to just below his elbow. So that's around that point where that line is on Mr. Sinister. Now we don't want to what we're going to have to do is cut through the arm and then attach a piece from another figure that is a swivel and then resculpt over it. So I'm essentially inserting a swivel joint into the arm. What we don't want to do is cut too close to this. You don't want to mess with any existing articulation. This part will be a disc, so the disc probably extends down to about there, which means I should aim to add the articulation about there. And really, is that an acceptable point? Does that make sense? I guess so, because he has that kind of ornate work around the top of his glove, which could hide the point of articulation quite well. So yeah, I think where that line is, not the one close to the elbow, but the one further down, I'm going to cut there. I'm going to maybe try and insert a swivel, and we'll see what I can do. Going to be interesting. I'm just kind of thinking, I wonder whether I should try and use a swivel from another figure or whether I should try and make one of my own. Okay, I've had a think about that, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert the articulation from another figure into that area there. The best way to go is find the wrist articulation from another figure, and here I've got a DCUC Artemis figure that I only wanted the head from it, so it's good to be finally able to use other parts of it. She has a very simple wrist articulation. It's just a post that goes in there, and the plastic is very thin and small, which means I will actually be able to hollow out a bit and, insert it in there. So let's give this a try. Let's see how I get on cutting Artemis's hands off. Right, as ever, when you're using a craft knife, please do be careful. Now, I'm going to be... It's always good just to open up and just see. So that the post is attached to the hand and the socket is in the wrist. So what you want to be careful when you're doing this is you're not going to slice through the bulbous part on the end of the socket. I'll try and just show you that with another figure here. So here we have the ankle articulation, which is the exact same situation as this. Now this is what the post looks like. It's thin and goes into the socket, and then it bulges out, so once it's in, it can't come out. So that's essentially what we want to preserve. We don't want to cut the post and leave the bulbous part in the socket, because then it won't stay in. So I'm just going to use this line here. I've not seen the articulation. I should really open it up, but I think just cutting it along the bracelet line there is going to be good. Something that might be useful when you're cutting off small parts of figures is put your finger on either end and try and cut straight down, because when you cut through the smaller bit that you're not holding on to, it will also often go flying across the room and you'll never find it ever again. So I assumed this plastic was going to be quite thin, but either it's just me being a weakling, my broken wrists, not broken wrists, my injured wrists not being up to much, or what? Oh, better hold it down. There we go. So I've removed Artemis's magical bracers, and there we have it. I'm just going to take off most of her hand as well, because I don't really need it. I just need enough plastic to work with, so I'm not... God, I'm feeble with this knife, I don't know. Anyway, this will give me a good opportunity to introduce those who don't know to a method for softening plastic to make it easier to cut. But anyway. So there we have one of Artemis's wrists. That says just got that articulation. Now, Mr. Sinister is a harder plastic, so to put that in there, I'm going to need to soften this plastic up quite a bit, because while I could use the Dremel saw to just go through it, I do want it to just be a razor fine cut. So I am going to boil the kettle and get some... Oh, I hate this mug so much. I'm not a musician by any standard. This was already in the house when we moved into it. I don't know who it belongs to. So I'm going to boil some water, put it in here, and we're going to soften Mr. Sinister up. Okay, so I've got my cup of boiled water. You can see the water vapour coming out of it there. What I'm going to do is put the bits that I need to cut through in boiled water. Just like that. And what do I need? Mr. Sinister's arms. So now you two behave yourself in there. And so I'm just acting while the water is really hot. Going to maybe leave them about a minute. A good sort of judge for whether the plastic has softened due to the heat is to look at the surface of it, and if there are bubbles, small air bubbles appearing from within the plastic, that tends to mean that the plastic is expanding and releasing, I think that's what it is, releasing any air that's trapped inside, and so the bubbles are forming. In any case, I'm going to leave them there for just about a minute to soften up, and then I'll slice into them. So I'm actually going to go finish making myself a cup of tea. See, I'm multitasking. Softening figures, making cups of tea. Genius. So the figures have been in there for about a minute, so let's get them out. As always, I'm going to work with Artemis first, so let's take her out first. Please be careful, because the water is obviously very hot and the plastic will be very hot as well. So just whipping Artemis out, and then work quickly but always carefully. You can see how soft that plastic is now, and remember the trouble I had cutting through her other wrist. Hopefully that should not be the case anymore. There we go. That was very, very easy compared to the last time. That's me got 2 points of articulation that I can now add to Mr. Sinister. So let's get old Sinister out. Again, his arms have gone soft. Lie it as flat as possible. You want to cut cleanly. Straight through. I'm just lining it up with that line that he has on his arm. and then just easing it through. There we go. Alright, and let me do the other one while it's still warm. Good for it. There we have. That says cut Mr. Sinister's arms off at the point that I want them to articulate. There we are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this point of articulation in there so it lines up. So I need to make a hole in here, and I need to make a hole in here. It might be better going that way, as I have more room to play with here than I do here. So essentially I'll make a socket so that that can just slide over there, and then articulation can work. Now, the reason I'm doing it that way, creating sockets for either side of this articulation to go in, is if you just cut very close to the post and try and glue it onto this sheer surface, any type of, because it's, I'm struggling to explain it, the glue on such a small surface, any movement that way would break it off very easily, and then it's just very difficult. So we want to embed it in there to strengthen the joint. So that's the plan. Let's see how it goes. So I'm going to get back out my Dremel. I'm going to move the hot water away to the side. So here's my Dremel with the bit at the end changed. Previously I used this one, which is good for grinding, sort of sanding, but now we're going to use this one, which is good for, you know, just removing smaller things and actually burrowing into material. And these are just the bits that come with the Dremel, so I haven't gone out and had to buy these. Okay, where should I start? Well, let's just go for it. Take the plastic out of there, give it as much space as possible. There we go. Yep, that worked. Right, so now I am happy to commit. Sorry, that was just me putting some super glue on it, jamming it back in. And again, keep it moving, give it a little bit of time to bond, keep it moving. In any case, I have managed to add that joint to Mr. Sinister. and with a little bit of sculpting and paintwork, that should be quite good. Phew. Okay, I'm going to work on this one and I'll hopefully see you in a minute. Alright, a couple of minutes later, and I've added in articulation there without any major disasters. It's just freshly glued, so I'm keeping it moving. So that's him, got his added articulation. So I guess that's as far as we're going with the prepping. I'm not really going to do much more with him. I'll come back and show you about sculpting in the next one. And off screen I'm just going to tidy up some of these quite messy bits. I want to get him so he's a nice clean finish to start building on. And that'll be in the next one. See you then.